On Earth in the modern world is the safest time to be alive in all of human history so far. Thanks to achievements in medicine, science, peace, and technology, we can live a healthier, longer, and more peaceful life than any generation of humans before us. But where exactly on Earth is the absolute safest place for you to live in? In other words, where are you statistically least likely to experience any kind of pain or suffering during your lifetime? There are a few possible places for you to consider, so let's go through them. The first criteria that we'll be using is life expectancy. Residents of these 10 countries live the longest lives anywhere in the world, but none as long as Monaco, where the average life expectancy for both men and women is an incredible 89.5 years. One trick to live a longer lifetime is to be the correct gender. Women all around the world live longer lives than men do on average. But here in Monaco, they have a life expectancy of 93.5 years, the longest anywhere on Earth. If your biggest fear is being murdered by another human, then you should consider living in one of these 10 countries that have the lowest intentional homicide rates. Andorra, Monaco, Liechtenstein, and San Marino all reported not a single murder in the previous year, while Japan has the lowest homicide rate of any country in the world that's not a city or a microstate. While your chances of being murdered in Japan are astronomically lower than almost anywhere else, your chances of being the victim of a natural disaster like a tsunami or an earthquake are astronomically higher at the same time. 10 countries where you're less likely to become a victim, however, are these, which also happen to be the 10 countries where natural disasters happen least often. Qatar tops this list as the country where you're least likely to ever be a victim of a disaster, while neighboring Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates also score very highly here. As far as the overall happiness of a country's population, however, Scandinavia dominates the list, with Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Finland, and Sweden all placing in the top 10 happiest countries. Happiness is measured by high GDP per capita, high life expectancy, freedom to make life choices, and low corruption. And all of Scandinavia excels in all of these areas. A few other countries around the world are also pretty happy places, but Scandinavia also dominates the list of countries with the greatest amount of freedom of the press, with the same 5 countries once again being in the top 10. You're least likely to be attacked or persecuted for what you write in these countries. And unsurprisingly, Scandinavia also scores highly in the top 10 least air-polluted countries, with Sweden, Iceland, and Finland all scoring highly here. Canada, Australia, and especially New Zealand also have some of the cleanest air to breathe in the world, so your risk of getting lung or respiratory diseases in any of these is significantly lower than elsewhere. As far as being a danger to yourself is concerned, however, the islands of the Caribbean tend to have the lowest suicide rates, with St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Bahamas, Jamaica, Grenada, Barbados, and especially Antigua and Barbuda having the lowest in the world. If dying from disease is what you're most terrified by, however, then you should know that these 10 countries are where your odds of death from a non-communicable disease are the lowest. Switzerland, Japan, and Iceland are all equally safe in this regard. But Iceland excels in one more final category. The Global Peace Index ranks every country in the world every year from least safe to most safe. And this year, in 2017, they've awarded the title of the safest country on Earth to none other than Iceland. You may have noticed that Iceland has absolutely excelled in nearly all of these categories, since it placed in the top 10 for lowest risk of dying from a non-communicable disease, the happiest countries in the world, lowest risk of being a natural disaster victim, lowest amount of air pollution, highest life expectancy, freedom of the press, and overall safest countries in the world. In addition, Iceland has had a total of 1 person killed in any military conflicts in the last nearly 500 years, and it was during an argument over fishing rights with the United Kingdom in the 1970s. Police violence is also incredibly rare, since Icelandic police have only ever claimed the life of one person in the entire country's modern history. So the case is very strong for Iceland being the safest place to live out your life in the entire world. But other places that scored highly in all of these categories that would make for a good secondary alternative safe place are Switzerland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Spain, Monaco, Austria, Singapore, Brunei, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. But if